So enough about us. Let's talk about some stories, eh? Haunted houses. Haunted house stories in Manitoba. So in continuation with last week, we were talking about haunted highways, like haunted, like number 1 out by Peguis is very haunted. Highways 7, 8, and 9 are very haunted. Usually a lady in a wedding dress or spaghetti strap dress. Somebody had told us not to do with the highway, but they said to try the hotel owners or patrons of Elm Creek. She says, I have heard them firsthand. So there you go. There's some more material for you guys. Go check out the hotel in Elm Creek.
So when are we going?
Road trip. So this one person, I can't pronounce the name, is Waynisario F. Says, I was not going to comment on your post, but we always find when people don't believe in spirits and paranormal, they go, I don't believe in spirits, but there was this one time, and then, it goes wrong from there. So anyway, so this is on 17th Street in Portage La Prairie. Apparently in the house at that one location, I won't give obviously the house number, he said that there's a mirror in the closet. It gives me chills. The moment I stepped in that room, every time I went downstairs with the laundry basket, I felt a warm hand on my shoulder, but about halfway down, it was like icy fingers grabbing my ankles. I always threw the basket and I grabbed the wall to the light, and I always told my partner, and he never believed me. After I gave birth to our son, I guess it was a woman, sorry. After I gave birth to our son, I couldn't sleep in that room with the mirror, so if I left him to do laundry, he would hysterically cry, the baby, not the partner. And then our last night in that house, I was in the living room with our son, and last little things were happening, and then my man came running out of the room saying, where were you? Where are you? And I said, here with the baby. And he later tells me that he thought I curled up beside him when he rolled over and nobody was there. And like something constantly calling me back to that house, and I'm not going back, and I have no idea who lives there now. So, and that's the funny thing too. I think, didn't you have somebody in bed with you? I had a spirit, a ghost, sorry.
Yeah, I had somebody sit down on the bed beside me, and it was
same idea.
They were heavy enough that I actually rolled to the middle of the bed.
Yeah, so that happens. And then with respects to, I've heard this before too, maybe not necessarily anybody that we've spoken to on the podcast, but the fact being, somebody on the podcast told us, we had an episode 2 years ago for our Halloween episode. This fellow named Austin told us some pretty freaky stuff on a house that he was servicing HVAC in Wolseley. And he was also saying that he a lot of times went down into the pits in the sub-basement at the Fort Garry Hotel, and he was saying that there is something so evil down there that it gets in your head. Like there is something in there that days later, weeks later, there was still something in his head there's something so sinister, maybe with the land, right? Like I'm thinking, not just of what's transpired in the hotel, but just given where the land is and where it's located and what's happened, hundreds of years ago. But that's a thing, right? Like people say that it resonates with them and it's like something's still with them that they can't get rid of. Anyway.
Is he talking about the tunnels?
Yeah, like it's those pits, because they got to go down and do work in the pits and stuff. Like you think in this day and age, but I mean, like the hotel is so old, for them to renovate and fix the HVAC systems down there or whatever, the linings and the sewers, and I mean, anyway. So that's me. We choo-choo. We roll off the tracks and we go off topic, but that's okay. The next story is from a lady named Lauren in St. James, Westwood, Crestview, Headingley area. Currently in my house right now, there's a lot of incidents. For one instance, yesterday my daughter called for my son in the basement if he was down there, and she got a reply of yes, and then she went outside. Her brother was not in the basement. So that's what they call a mimic. So she said, I hear things dragging in the upstairs bedroom and nobody is upstairs. This has happened numerous times. Or things are being tossed in the room right in front of you. Can you imagine that? They're just,
poltergeist activity.
Poltergeist, yeah. just books levitating off tables and stuff. She also hears whispers in the living room at night or a humming noise. Her kids have also heard it as well. She says, so much more has happened and it's kind of eerie. And we appreciate when people share these details with us. I can't imagine having to live with that all the time. So, when people are that candid and then they tell us, this has happened, that has happened, but they don't expand on it, totally get that. You have to live there. I wouldn't want anybody to be so jarred that they give every little detail of every little incident and then they're sitting there, oh shit, what have I done? I hope it didn't hear me, or starts up again, I guess. So.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who want to meet us outside of their home first, right? Yeah. Whether it's because, they don't know us, but a lot of times it's because they don't...
Who the fuck are these people? Get out of my house.
It's a lot of times because they don't want to upset whatever's in their home, right? And sometimes talking about it can stir up activity.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we made a friend on Facebook through the podcast. She actually lives in Gimli. Judy's her name, and we interact with her a lot. I remember when we were interviewing her, one of the things that would happen in her house, and just for context, the house was actually built for the priest for the church beside it. And there was a lot that went with it. And again, just to advertise or just say, if you want to ever go back and listen to that episode in Gimli, she goes into great detail. But it was kind of interesting. We did a phone interview with her based on what she sent us. While we were on the phone with her, the bed started shaking. And we believe her because you could hear, you could hear it grinding into the floorboards. It's like, oh my God, if you're not comfortable continuing this conversation, we totally get it. And then after a while we'd stop, but it was shaking her and stuff. So just you appreciate people when they tell you these stories and share this very sensitive stuff, but at the same time, you don't want to put them in danger because they got to live there. So anyway.
Did you guys ever investigate other hunters?
Some of the original people in Winnipeg Paranormal did, and including Chris Rutkowski. I don't know if you know where he is as well. He was one of the first investigators in Winnipeg, and that was in the 70s. But they said they really didn't find much when they were in there. They did talk to quite a few people who worked there and who were scared when they were working there because they experienced things, but the paranormal people I know who did go in there that said that they didn't experience anything.
And that probably goes back to the people that work there experience a lot of stuff because they were there all the time.
They were there every day.
That's again, we're saying, you have to be in an environment for quite some time to really pick up on the energy and all that good stuff, right? So anyway. Also, with the last story about the lady I talked to, she also responded because I said if they're calling out to somebody and somebody responds, that's called a mimic. Some people would call that a demon, maybe. I don't know. Do you guys know much about mimics? Do you really play into that, or just from what I know?
I don't like to throw around the word.
The D word?
We don't like to throw the D word.
Well, we're out in the open. It's okay. We're in a safe place.
That. It's just it's
so
overused.
Exaggerated.
It's exaggerated.
Sure,
Yeah.
but that's what I mean. I don't know if
thinks they have a demon in their house.
Yeah, the optimistic skeptic in me. I don't know if I would believe that. That's what I've heard. See, these guys are the professionals. But with this lady that was talking about where her son said yes to the daughter and it wasn't him, I said it sounds like a mimic because it's very unnerving. I asked, do you know the history of the house? I said, do you rent or do you own? She said they were renting. A lot of stuff had happened, even in the basement. I thought my daughter was down there. I called her name and she replied yes. I go downstairs and the lights are turned off. I got an eerie feeling, came back up so quickly, and then I find my daughter outside. So definitely creepy that time, and hearing a male whisper by the back door. The kids want to rather move from here. That's what she said. So do you want to read the next story? Sure. I say a lot. I'm not a professional by any means. Sorry.
Tammy's?
Sure.
All right. So this story was submitted by Tammy. And she says, we moved to a house on Sparrow Road when my youngest son was about 2.5 years old. Within the first couple of weeks, he started acting strange, being alone in certain parts of the house. He started mentioning a lady. He refused to sleep in his room, so luckily the master bedroom was large enough that we had room for a king-size bed and his double bed. One day I was doing something in the kitchen and he came in and kept saying, lady, and he was pointing down the hall towards the bedroom. He was trying to get me to go with him down the hall and show me the lady that he was seeing. As we were walking into the bedroom, he starts taking me towards the back window. At this point, I assumed that it was just the elderly lady that lived next door to us since it was a side-by-side. I thought maybe he was seeing her through the window. But as we get to the window, he's pointing out, saying, "Lady right there, right there." I couldn't see anyone when I looked out. There was an empty lawn chair that was facing the house, and he was pointing directly to the chair, saying, "Lady right there." I kind of dismissed it and didn't really think too much of it after that. Until a few weeks later, and we were starting to try and set up a playroom in the basement for him, and he refused to go down there unless we shut all the doors first. There was a bedroom, a laundry room, and a bathroom, which every door had to be shut before he would go down. Then one day I was sitting in the living room. From where I was sitting, I could see straight down the hall. He asked me where a specific toy was, and I told him it was in his bedroom and where he could find it. He ran down the hall to go find his toy, and less than 20 seconds later, he came running out of room with a look of terror on his face, petrified, saying, "Lady, lady," as he was jumping up onto my lap. I said, "Where?" And he kept pointing down the hall towards his room. Take his hand and led him down the hall and stopped at the doorway to his bedroom. I said, "Where's the lady?" He points to the middle of his room and says, "Lady right there." We asked him if he wanted to go and shake hands with the lady and say hi. He proceeded to walk into the middle of his room, shake hands with the air, and run back. We ended up having to move out of the house about 10 months later. He never had any experiences of that nature after that house or before that house, so I'm convinced that there was something in that house that he was seeing. Kind of reminds me of my house.
Let me see this for a second.
With my kid, yeah. So in a house I was renting, I guess he was about 2.5, 3 years old. He came out and told us that the dark man was coming out of his closet at night. So that was the reason why I called Winnipeg Paranormal at the time and got them to come investigate. Yeah, so it's definitely scary when your kids are telling you they're seeing things.
Yeah, when kids are involved, like that's very unnerving because kids see things that you don't or hear.
And those are the ones that we pay particular attention to. We'll put them
we try and prioritize
front
them.
of the line,
Yeah, for sure.
That's
Good on you guys, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand. Or should they, right? So you just want to try and protect them.
Yeah, exactly.
So Kelly, I'll get you to read the last page, and then we'll just take like a little intermission before we get on to the next portion.
Okay.
Is Colin here? Colin, you got we're going to take an intermission, then we'll get you to read your story and stuff. Excellent. Awesome.
Oh, awesome. Okay. Brad L. My father-in-law's house was definitely haunted on Strathcona Street. Every time we went there, my daughter, who was an infant, would not stop crying the minute we walked in the door. The worst was hearing footsteps on the steps and hardwood floors when no one else was in the house. Definitely freaky. Okay. What is this? If you grew up in Winnipeg, Manitoba, you remember?
That was the Facebook page, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. This is Lorna. My sister's house was very haunted. I've blessed her house starting from the front door all the way upstairs and all the way back. I've blessed every corner. She was sitting at the table when I came down her back stairs. 2 spirits ran out and slammed the door. That same night, there were big yellow orbs at her back door. I was not scared and never will be the second night. I saw a tall black figure. It stopped. It looked at me. I looked at it and it was gone. I got up to investigate, but there was nothing. There were spirits that were no longer there. But the house is closed down forever due to my sister going to a nursing home. It's been in the family ever since it was built by my sister's husband. Family passed away in there. But there is always activity in the home. But with so much violence going on with my nephews, they brought in dark entities. This is why I've blessed it. My nephews were having very bad nightmares. I've always seen spirits and stuff like that since I've been 5 years old, so I'm not afraid of this kind of stuff. They put up St. Michael medallions on the outside of the home, but they will never go back to that home after what happened.
Interesting. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Thank you so much. we're about ready to start again. Sorry about that. Colin, if we can get you to the stage, please. Everybody give it up to Colin.
Hello again, Colin.
Welcome
Hello
back,
again. Thank you.
stranger.
Before I begin this story, my wife actually asked me to file an amendment to the Captain Kennedy House story from earlier.
Okay.
She used to work there, and
What?
I said that they actually went down into the basement alone all the time, because that's where like the
What?
freezer and produce was.
Oh my God.
And what they would do would then also be to lock each other in the basement and shut off all the lights. And that it is every bit as frightening as the story says.
Not
Alright.
cool. Do you have stories then, or do you want to share after? Have a few more sips, and then you figure it out and you come talk to us. Okay, Collins, floor is yours.
Thank you. So I am not difficult to frighten, but the most terrified I've ever been in my life was in grade 2 when my librarian, Mrs. Yonkin, brought out this book. It was a story told by by Joanna Galdone, illustrated by Paul Galdone, and it was a folktale, and it terrified me for years. And I'm just going to share it with all of you right now, because that seemed like a fun thing to do. So this story is called The Taily Po. Does anyone know the story? Okay, great. Just maybe audience participation if you want. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So, on a cool November night, not unlike this one, in the depths of a deep, dark woods, again, not unlike this one, there lived a man. And actually like this one, he had 3 dogs, and I see 3 dogs.
1, 2,
right
3.
here.
Who's a good boy?
Yeah, these dogs are perfect. I've been looking at them all night.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Beautiful
but
dogs.
old man lived alone in the forest, deep dark woods, yada yada yada. So he lives alone with his 3 dogs, so not alone, but he lives with his 3 dogs. Their names are You Know, I Know, and Cumsco Calico. He hunts, he forages, that's how he gets his food. He doesn't have a lot of pals that aren't 4-legged. So he's got to go out and like scrounge up food every day. But again, this being a cold, chilly November, he has been a little strapped for food lately. Oh, puppies. I'm sorry, puppies. Don't listen. Don't listen, puppies. So he scrounged up, like the previous day he had some berries. The day before that he tried chewing on a stick. Like, dude's hungry. So he takes his dogs out hunting. They find absolutely nothing. So he comes back home, trudging, tired. Maybe he found a couple mushrooms. He's not sure if he's gonna try them. He's like keeping them in the cupboard to see if he gets that desperate. And he sits down, and he's just trying to rest a little bit before bed, when suddenly there is a scratching sound, and a small furry something squeezes through a hole in the wall and rushes out across the room. Dude thinks, oh snap, that looks edible. So he reaches for his hatchet and he lunges towards the creature. And he swipes at it, and he's really, really hungry, and that means his aim isn't that good. So he misses hitting the creature on the back or the head. He just chops off its tail. Creature lets out this like super unpleasant screechy sound, scurries off through the hole in the wall. Old guy's sitting there, looks at his dogs, looks at this weird tail in the middle of the room, looks at the dogs and the tail, and is like, all right, sweet, we got dinner. Grabs the tail, chucks it in a pot, boils it up for some soup. He gives the bones to the dogs. He's like downed it. He is feeling pretty great. Before bed, he patches up the hole in the wall, and he's like just getting ready to head off to sleep with a nice full belly, relatively speaking, when he hears a scratching at the door. I wish I had a horrifying chalkboard here to scratch against. I don't.
And I don't have a sound effect machine. I'm so sorry.
That's I should have prepared for that. So imagine a horrifying scratching sound and a voice really raspy saying, "Taily Po, Taily Po. All I want is my Taily Po. And he's like terrified. Like, no, we don't like that. So he runs to the door, throws it open, and he calls for his dogs. Like, I know, come to Go Calico, help me out. And the dogs go bark, 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 and they rush off into the distance, chasing after something. A lot of barking into the distance. But only 2 of his dogs come back. And he's pretty concerned about this. He's like, it's fine. Sometimes the dogs just go wandering. So he closes up the door. Pretty sure everything's been dealt with. Goes back to get ready for bed. He's just climbing into his bed where he hears the scratching again. This time at the window pane. This is the part you can help me with if you want. You don't have to, but it might sound really cool if we all did. It goes, Taily Po, Taily Po. All I want is my Taily Po. Beautiful. Thank you. He's, again, horrified, gets up, calls to the dogs, I don't come to Go Calico, throws the door open, bark, 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 dogs rush out, chase after something, screech, screech, into the woods. 1 dog comes back. Not his favorite number of dogs, but he's very nervous at this point. He knows the dogs, they'll find their way back. Closes up the door, locks it up, double checks the window, makes sure it's locked, double checks the little sealed thing that he'd closed up, make sure it's locked. And as he's doing that, he hears the scratching on the roof. And the voice, again, Taily Po, Taily Po. All I want is my Taily Po. It's like, okay, dogs, go, 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 go. I know. Dog rushes off. No dogs come back. Dude is alone. It is late in the night. We're approaching the 4 a.m. time right now. Locks up his door. It's fine. The dogs will be back. Heads to the bedroom, and he's just sitting under the bed, pulling the covers up, trying to will himself to fall asleep. But then the scratching happens across the floor of his house, and the voice, Taily Po, Taily Po. All I want is my Taily Po. So he's not gonna look. He's pulling that blanket right up over him, and he hears it at the foot of the bed, scratching on the bedposts. Taily Po, Taily Po. All I want is my Taily Po. Not listening, blanket up over the face, can't see it. Feels something at the foot of the bed, the weight landing on the comforters, moving closer. Taily Po, Taily Po. All I want is my Taily Po. And he pulls down the blanket, and there's these 2 glowing yellow eyes and long furry claws staring at him. And he says, I haven't got your Taily Po. And the voice says, oh yes you have. And if you go to those woods now, there isn't a house standing anymore. There are the ruins of an old destroyed cabin. But if you listen very closely on cool nights like this one, you can hear a voice in the wind saying, Taily Po, Taily Po. Now I've got my Taily Po. The end. Thank you.
Great job.
Very cool. Thanks, Colin. So up next, we have, there's a little liquid courage happening there. Come on up, James. Tell us a story. Woo! 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 Thank you.
Hi, I'm James. I'm Chelsea's partner from Ravens End Books. And I grew up in a haunted house.
Ooh.
So this is up in St. Andrews, very close to Selkirk. We grew up in what was the old Mapleton Schoolhouse. Not to be confused with the current Mapleton Schoolhouse. There is a current Mapleton School. This is across the highway down the road a bit. But it used to be a schoolhouse once upon a time before it was turned into a house and moved a bit further back from the road. When my parents bought it, it put into a duplex. We were turning it back into a family home. And as soon as my mother went under the staircase to the attic, she felt something. Now, we've never had any, entities necessarily here, but there was an energy to the place. It was kind of a playful energy, nothing malicious. But yeah, every time my mother would pass under the staircase, she would just go oh, just feeling this playful energy. And we would have things happen from time to time that we couldn't explain. This is one particular event that we had happen on Halloween night. So my sister was actually having a Halloween party. She was going to have all of her friends over that evening, and my mom was cleaning up the place. And she was trying to figure out where her Ouija board was, because she thought, oh, that would be fun for a Halloween party. Get the Ouija board out, talk with the spirits. She found the board, but the little triangle piece, the planchette, was missing. And she couldn't figure out where this went. She was searching high and low throughout the whole house, trying to find this. And then she decided to move on eventually, get the rest of the cleaning done, just, make sure everything's presentable for having company over. And then it was when she got to the vacuuming. She was vacuuming the hallway of the house, just this long, fairly empty corridor. There's not really anything in it. When she finished and got to the far end of the hallway, she heard something drop onto the ground. Now again, no shelves or anything in this hallway, and she was just in it. She heard something fall right behind her, and it was the planchette of the Ouija board, right in the middle of the hallway.
Freaky. Of all things to drop. Like, seriously.
It was pointing at her.
Yes, and my sister just added it was pointing at her.
Oh.
Creepy.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. Does anybody, floor is open. If anybody has a story that they care to share or want to share, no pressure, but if you want, we'd love to hear it. Well, come on up.
Oh, whoever's first.
No, you come on up.
We can draw.
Okay, so that was my husband and my brother. So I grew up in a haunted house, and then I worked at Captain Kennedy.
What's your first
Room.
name?
My name's Jenny.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi. And then I also worked at Lower Fort Garry, so I have many stories.
Cool.
Wow.
So Captain Kennedy House, there were 4 spirits that we know of that were there. So in the basement was an older man that was a bit of an authoritarian figure that mostly hung out in the basement but would occasionally move throughout the house. In the top floor of the house, there was a young boy who was very scared of this old man, so he would often sit on the dryer and watch us fold laundry.
Wow.
We had a medium come, and she told us all the things. And then there was a girl that was soaking wet that wanders the gardens outside.
Ooh.
And then there is an older woman that sits in where the tea room used to be when the restaurant was open. She sits by one of the tables in a rocking chair. And she does not like children. So anytime we would sit children at that table, their glasses or plates would always go flying off of the tables every single time.
Freaky.
So we stopped seating children there.
Yeah.
But we did lock people in the basement on a regular basis. Myself included has been locked in the basement. It's very scary.
Lovely.
What they don't mention in that story as well is that in the labyrinth of rooms in the basement, one of the walls is only about a 3/4 wall, and there's space behind it, but you can't see what it is. It's pitch black, so you can't tell, and so there's just this like void kind of behind a 3/4 wall, and no one knows what's back there.
Bodies.
Yeah. And then you don't need to go inside to experience the activity. I was once just sitting outside in a car at night. We were looking and we were hoping to see something start flashing. We were kind of joking that maybe we'll see lights flashing, and then sure enough, one of the security lights outside started flashing very, very quickly. I went into work the next day and told my boss, and we looked into it. Nothing was wrong with the light. It never happened again. So you can just drive by and sit and watch outside, and it's a very, very spooky house. And then when I worked at Lower Fort Garry, there are many things at Lower Fort Garry that happened while I was there. If you've ever watched the Ghost Hunters International episode where they go to Lower Fort Garry, it's total crap. It's really bad. They make up a bunch of stories that none of us had ever heard before. They refer to my manager as a caretaker. And just to like make it spookier. So that episode's garbage. Don't listen to it. But my favorite story at Lower Fort Garry was, so there's one building, which is the warehouse building. So when it was Fur Trade Fort, it was a warehouse. After that, the fort had like a very long history. So it was Manitoba's first prison in that building as well. It was also a former mental hospital in that building, and it was also the where the showers were when the site was a golf course. So that building has a lot of very interesting history. But if you
I
ever
didn't know it was a golf course. That's news to me.
Yeah.
Really?
It was a country club. Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry. All sorts of things that happen
Had to interact.
there. Yeah.
I'm like, what?
If you're ever visiting Lower Fork area, you go into that building, you'll see one of the corners is kind of sunken in the corner, and that's because solitary confinement was down in the basement, and so you can see the building kind of sunk towards that corner because there used to be 2 cells underneath. And you can also see in the beams where some of the bars were from when it was a penitentiary. So it's a cool building, but my friend and I were in there. It's usually a pretty empty building. There's not anyone that is usually stationed in there working. It's just kind of an open building. The second floor is closed to the public. We use it as storage. And then the third floor is condemned. You can't go up there. So my friend and I were sitting on the main floor and we were talking shit about a coworker when,
As you do.
when we heard footsteps on the floor above us, and we thought, oh shit, someone's up there, and they just heard us talking about this person. So we open the rope and we go upstairs, and there's only one staircase. We go upstairs and nobody's up there, and it's a warehouse, so there's not walls, it's just open space. No one was there. We checked the third floor just in case. Nobody was there, and we were like, what the hell? There were footsteps, and as soon as we had heard the footsteps and went hello, they had stopped. So we thought maybe it was a shutter outside that was flapping against the wall, so we went outside and realized that building doesn't have shutters. So we left and we went to a different building to go talk shit about our coworkers, but it's a very spooky place, so go visit. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks. Woo! That was good. Thank you. And now we're going to have Ilene and Clay. Are you coming up too?
Oh, Clay will stand here because he's,
Yeah.
fills in the details I forgot about half the
So these people are from Kenora, and they are investigators themselves.
They are part of Winnipeg Paranormal, just the Kenora division.
KPI, we call ourselves, Kenora
Do you want me to lower it?
Paranormal Investigations. So, my name's Ilene, this is Clay. We're part of KPI Paranormal Group. I've had many, many, many paranormal experiences, but I thought the appropriate one to tell would be my very first real paranormal experience, which really got me interested in this field in the first place. I was young. I was in my early 20s. I too moved into a house that was haunted. At the time I didn't know, but first night I moved in, I was expecting my daughter. I was very expecting. I was 8 months and huge. It was awful. But anyway, first night, the house, let me do a little tiny backstory. I'm going to try and keep it fairly short, but the house wasn't exactly clean to where most landlords would clean the house before you move in. It was unusual. There was a small room in the upstairs. It was small. The rug was ripped up. There was stuff that looked like somebody shook a can of Coke and sprayed it up the wall. It was bizarre, and there was little pellets all over the floor when you looked on the floor. And at the time, it just didn't occur to me. I just thought, oh, well, they didn't clean it up. Somebody had a party in here. So that night, I went to sleep and sound asleep, and I was woken up by a gunshot. It woke me out of a dead sleep. And I sat straight up, and of course, my spouse, I woke him and I said, did you hear that? There was a gunshot. And I'll go back to sleep. It was probably just a car backfiring. He didn't hear anything, but it really bothered me. At the time, I wasn't really honed into any of my real skills, although I've always known since I was young that I sense things, seen things, and whatever. So it did bother me, and it bothered me to the point where I stayed up all night. It bothered me. So the next day, I went across the street and knocked on the neighbor's door. It so happened they were out front anyhow, and I said, I just moved into that house there. Can you please tell me something about the people who lived there before me? And he says to me, oh, you don't want to know, like this, right? So of course it's like,
yeah.
You got it. Now you have to tell me.
Yeah.
So he says, well, there was a a guy living there with his 2 sisters, so there was 3 of them, siblings, living there, and they had gotten to a argument, and he went upstairs and shot himself.
Oh, God.
So, okay, so that confirmed the gunshot. It turns out that the matter that was on the wall, it wasn't properly cleaned up. The pellets on the floor were shotgun pellets. And so I've immediately called the landlord, of course, and complained and whatnot. But after that, it was constant activity. It was a semi-detached. Just to make note of that, because that'll come into, play a little later in the story. But there was constant activity. The lights would switch on and off, and they were the old light switches that click, like you hear them click. TV would switch channels constantly, whether the remote was anywhere near it or not. The TV was new. It never did that in any
Was it plugged in?
place. Yes.
Oh, good.
It was
Okay.
plugged in. You try and discredit things.
Yeah.
But I always felt him. I did find out who he was, what his name was, his full name. He let me know what his full name was.
Did you ever address him?
I
By
did.
name?
I was young, though, and I
Okay.
got accustomed to him, to be honest. It was only
Right.
once he really scared me. So I was upstairs and I was vacuuming. And my daughter was just born, maybe 2 months old, and all this activities going on, doors slamming, opening, closing, stuff going. The person on the other side of the duplex would have to leave. He experienced all kinds of paranormal activity. He couldn't stand it. He moved out. And so I was vacuuming, and you know those linen closets they have in the older houses? They're so small, nobody could fit in them. They're just small, and they have the shelves, and you can't fit in them.
Yeah.
So I'm vacuuming, and I'm standing right in front of it, and all of a sudden there was like somebody had, out of anger, just bang, 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 and the door shook. And it was so loud, like somebody was banging on the door, and I dropped everything. It's the only time I've ever run from, second time I've ever run from paranormal activity. I wouldn't go back up there for the day until
Right.
somebody came home. I turned the room, cleaned it up, and turned it into a very nice nursery, and I always felt he was there, but I think he was comforted by the fact that I turned it into something so pleasant.
Positive, yeah.
Yeah, and just on another note, I moved out about maybe not even 2 years later, and that TV never did that again. So just so you know.
Right.
But there was only one other occasion where I ran, but that's a different story. I don't like being touched by ghosts, and that's happened to me several times, and that was Red Boiling Springs, Tennessee, Thomas House, which has been featured on many programs, and my husband and I have investigated right across the states, that being one place, that in Gettysburg. But that was
You
the
guys
only
did
place.
Gettysburg?
Yeah, we did get kicked out though.
Oh my God.
We got
Why?
kicked out of
You're
Gettysburg.
not supposed to be in
Not
there after
supposed to be
dark.
in there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we
you're
almost
not
got
supposed to be at the
arrested,
park.
but we
Yeah.
did witness something there too.
Like soldiers and stuff.
A soldier.
Yeah. Does anybody know of Gettysburg? Like
Everybody
the whole...
knows about Gettysburg.
Well, no, I
right?
know, but I mean, like, as far as like, it's so blatantly haunted.
It is
it's
so
crazy.
blatantly haunted. So
Yeah.
if you ever get a chance to go,
Well, we
Go,
left
it
from the
was-
spot there. We were at the graveyard area.
Okay.
And there was something in the trees we couldn't explain and couldn't
Yeah.
see, and
Yeah.
we're like, yeah, we have to go. That's
yeah.
Because I
Well, I didn't really want to go.
I
but
totally can see
yeah.
where the soldiers don't know they're dead, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's sad, but
Well, we did
know.
witness something fly across the road, the dirt road, and into the cornfield. And the cornfield moved, and he's like, "What the?" Of course, 4-letter word. What the? And
Yeah.
so we turned around, and we looked, and if there's something that large that goes through a cornfield, it's going to make a path.
of course.
And there was no path. So it's very, very haunted, but that again is a different story. In Thomas House, I don't even know if they let you investigate there anymore,
Okay.
because there's so much activity there that it's just stirring up all kinds of stuff, so they just kind of stopped
Yeah.
doing it. But
And how did you guys get first involved with investigating? Like,
So-
what was the...
yeah, so after that paranormal experience, again, I'm not going to say how old I am, but it was quite a long time ago, and that's
Not a
what's-
day over 28.
Oh, thank you. You're my new best friend. But that's what got me interested. I've been doing investigations since then, but I never joined a group or posted for anything.
Yeah.
It was all for my own personal research.
Of course.
I've researched, I've read everything there is to read, I've watched documentaries, I've, investigated. We got equipment coming out of the wazoo, we tried everything.
I just want to mention.
So we did join a group in Kenora, and it's a different paranormal group.
Okay.
And this group in Kenora just wasn't doing.
They're more
investigation,
enthusiasts,
instead of investigators.
Right.
So that's where we met these guys here that are with the Winnipeg Paranormal, and they asked us to join them. So that's how we ended up becoming
Nice.
The Kenora division.
We're the Winnipeg KPI, which is a division of.
We are
So,
a division of
yeah.
these guys.
And I'm honored to be part of the group.
We love having
I'm
you guys
just so
with
honored.
us.
I've learned so much from you guys too. So yeah, that's my story.
We try to support these guys at every turn and every move, and investigate as many places as we can.
Yeah. Like during the break, I was speaking with the three ladies at the back table, and Charisse as well. There are three kinds of people. There are the people that believe and have had experiences. There are the people that deny and there's no such thing as ghosts. And then there's the ones that don't necessarily not believe, but they want to have experiences. So there's three kinds of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Like,
whereas I'm a believer, I can make you a believer. I have footage, I can make you a believer.
Yeah.
If you came out in an investigation, I guarantee he wasn't a believer when I met him. He total skeptic. He's a believer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just full-blown conversations using tools and no way to debunk. Just I can prove it. I think if you can't debunk it, there is no other explanation. And when something's responding to your questions to that accuracy, I can make you a believer. Come on out to an investigation, an open investigation will make you a believer. That's all I
Excellent.
have to say about that. But
Well, thank you very much,
Awesome.
Ilene and Clay. Thank you.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So next up, Charisse, do you want to come up and tell us some stories?
I was seeing golf in the other thing.
So this is Charisse. We've interviewed her before on the podcast. Can I say as much as...
Yeah, for sure.
When we first interviewed Charisse, she lived in the building that's on Portage Avenue that back in 1928, I think it's the top 3 levels burnt down and 5 people died. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
So that building is uber haunted. Sherbrooke and Portage?
Yeah, Sherbrooke
Yeah,
and
but
Portage.
she's no longer there. It's all good now. So, well, or is it?
Well, like it may or may not be.
Yeah, but now
Still
she's
there.
somewhere. She's in a better place now. So, but she's got some more additional stories. Like some people are just so in tune. I'm not saying it's following you by any means, but I think when you're kind of open and you've had experiences, you're going to keep having experiences. And she would like to share that with us tonight.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm kind of nervous.
Sorry, or she's emailed me. I can always read for you if you want.
Well, it's a different story.
It's different. Oh,
You can
well,
read that one
we're
too
all
if you want.
ears. Yes, no, definitely.
Okay, so I'm gonna try and keep it a little bit short here. But this one really shook me and my wife to the core. At the time, she was my girlfriend, and we were dating, and I was staying at her hotel in Selkirk, Manitoba. Selkirk's fun and active.
Very active.
Very active. So there was a couple of experiences that I had while I was staying there for the night. The minute you walk in, you feel this really overwhelming thickness, and it's so thick that you want to just turn around and run, and you're terrified. It's so thick and creepy. And this particular hotel, I didn't know at the time, but we found out there's been a homicide, a couple of suicides there as well, and assaults, like a ton of assaults. So it was very active in the past. And this one night, I was so terrified. Like, it was just one room. Like, it's just like one room and then like a little bathroom. I think that's really all it is, like a little super mini bachelor. But I was so terrified, I got my wife to come and stand outside the door of the bathroom. And the bathroom was particularly
the scariest part. It was very thick and terrifying, and you just want to, like, you didn't know if you wanted to, like, run and just run and puke. Like, it was so thick and scary and terrifying. But because we had been drinking, we had to stay there for the night. So it's like the horror movies where you're like waiting and waiting for the daylights just to turn around and like go, right? Like, it's so scary. And this, I think it was a different night. This one really, it was the icing on the cake for sure. So we were laying there one night, we fell asleep. All of a sudden I was woke up out of a deep sleep, and my wife, she shook me really violently. There's no domestic between us, I promise, but she shook me really violently, and her eyes went so dark. My wife's got beautiful green eyes. Her eyes were black, and her voice wasn't her voice. It was a man's voice saying, "Don't you dare fucking tell anyone."
Oh my God.
And then she fell back asleep. And I was absolutely like, I get goosebumps telling it. Like, it was so terrifying. And we could not wait to leave. We absolutely could not wait to leave. I couldn't fall asleep after that. Like, she had no recollection of it. None. And it was so terrifying, like absolutely terrifying. That was like, we literally were hit the door running and driving back to the city. It was so terrifying. And then she was actually in the middle of moving out of that hotel after that one. That one really did it in for us. And then I was on FaceTime with her, and it was during a blizzard. And we were just talking about like random things about moving, not necessarily anything paranormal. And a whole chair behind her went flying at her and hit her. It was terrifying.
Oh my God.
There was no one in the room with her, just her. I couldn't explain it, and like, it was so scary. Like, I still get goosebumps looking at, like, telling that story. And numerous times we'd see masses. The cats would like act up. They'd be terrified. Their fur was on end. Very active in that hotel. So that was my Selkirk story. No, it's very privately rented out. But yeah, it was terrifying.
Not so.
It could be.
So what room are you in?
It's a weird setup, but
investigators, am I right?
Start with the question.
That's right.
It's privately rented, so well, to be honest, I mean, I could tell, but like, I don't want any problems.
Repercussions, yeah.
Come tell us after.
Charisse.
I can tell these guys.
Do you want me to read the story that you submitted?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so real quickly, I mean, now that's anonymous because she's sitting right here.
I can't say this.
It's about her work. So the place that she works is historically well known. It's having been built in the last 65 years. Though it's not too old, but a lot can happen in those years. She says, I've had a lot of the experiences there. The first couple that really stick out for me is when one early morning I had a shift and I just walked in the door, and when I turned around to lock it back up again, I heard a man's voice right beside me say, "Oh, help, good morning." And there was only me in the building. I'm absolutely 100% certain no other co-workers were in the building at the time, as most of the time I'm the one that's there first. I shook it off and I carried on the morning routine, and just as I was walking by the women's washroom, I hear a chatter of women talking, and I couldn't hear what they were saying though. After the experience, I would gradually, at random, have other experiences like footsteps accompanied by keys jingling, and again, I was the only person in the building at the time. I also had one time encountered something more spookier as I was carrying on my morning routine, and I walked by the previously mentioned women's washroom, and a door slammed open, and it was with such force that the toilet paper cover was actually knocked loose. Later that day, I heard chairs being moved around just to investigate it, and I'd seen that nothing was disturbed. It is a nonchalant mention around with coworkers that the place is active. I also once witnessed a decorative plate fly off the wall and fall to the ground, smashing into a million pieces right as my coworker walked by. There's also been a lot of faint scent of Old Spice, aftershave that would come, sorry, that was my own, not her, and go on to no one in the building, and there's no air fresheners or chemicals that smell remotely close to it. Things get so spooky, I will, this is the beer talking, occasionally get so spooked because of the frequency of things happening here. I certainly have to put a little pep in my step just to be able to leave quicker. My workplace could turn a non-believer into a believer that fast. This is my experience so far. So that was Sharice's experience with work. So if you ever want to go back to our podcast, again, I'm advertising, not advertising, but we did interview Sharice about her experiences with the building that she lived in on Portage Avenue that was known to have people die in it during a fire back in like 1928. I think we researched it. And I mean, the thing is, a lot of times when people die tragically, when people die, whether they're murdered and it's fast, or, even people when they commit suicide and at the last minute have a change of heart, but it's too late. I think those people are in denial that they're dead. That's my own personal feeling. And they don't know, right? So I mean, to them, they don't know to cross over, and that's so sad. But anyway.
Yeah, it was sad in your earlier days, hey? Like one of your first few podcasts, I think it was Haunting on Portage or something.
Yeah, Haunting on Portage Avenue. Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of ones on there.
A lot of stuff on there. Yeah. So anyway, thank you so much, Sharice, for sharing. Thank you. Woo! Anybody else before we wrap up for the evening? Anybody else want to share a story? Come say hi, talk. Did everybody get a chance to fill out a ballot? Last call before I make a draw? Anybody? I sound like Bueller. Anybody? No. Bueller. Anyway, haunted Bueller. You have a question? Anybody got a question? Anybody want to speak with these ladies? No?
If you don't feel comfortable asking it out loud, you can come ask us afterwards.
And next month we're going to be doing this again, July 27th, I think. Is it?
I believe that's the date.
Yeah, and we're thinking about doing this is my thought, doing Summerween as of Halloween in the summer. Yes.
I just sent Kelly a message
Summerween.
about that.
And not only that, I think the topic that we're going to be talking about next month will be like Black Shadow Man, because a lot of people report black shadow figures, whether it's sleep paralysis or whatever. I think that'll be our topic, maybe.
Cool.
Yeah, sounds cool. So please come back for that. We love having you guys here and talking about what we love talking about. So everybody's good with the draw? I'm going to make a draw then. Going once? Going twice? Screw you. I'm going to draw. Whoa! That's the beer talking. Actually, just to make sure it's legit, I'm going to get Ashley to draw. It's all your fault.
I want...
You don't count. I mean, I love you, but you don't count.
Sharice.
No! Woo! She should. She deserves a t-shirt after everything. So awesome. Okay, so I think that is it. We would like to thank again Little Brown Jug.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for coming out. We love ghosts, and thank you so much, Spriits. Thank you to the Winnipeg Paranormal Group for coming out and giving us their wisdom. Thank you to the Kenora folks. What is your group called formally? KPI Investigations. Yeah.
Kenora Paranormal Investigators.
Kenora Paranormal Investigators. And thank you so much again to our leader Chelsea, who put this all on for us. Thank you so much. Check out her store, Ravens End Books. It's amazing. And again, we are Winnipeg's first and only paranormal podcast. We are Giving Up the Ghost podcast. If you have a story to submit, definitely don't be shy. Me and Cher, we would love to contact you and discuss your story. Again, we believe and we totally get what you guys see and don't see, and whatever. So thank you so much. And again, remember to live every day like it is your last.
And never give up the ghost.
And never give up the ghost. Woo! What? I didn't catch that. Good night.